have we got a show for you, listeners. Welcome to Better Than Mario Brothers, the show where we delve deep into cinema's sewer. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partners in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And Miss Helen McIntyre.
Hiya.
I don't even know where to start.
Oh, fuck.
Start with the titles, because that's where I started.
2025, the world enslaved by a virus.
Oh, fuck me.
Released last year, whilst the pandemic was still in full swing. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I guess let's start by just giving some backstory here. This is a relatively new addition to our list of films to watch.
Yeah.
Probably 2-3 months ago now, Helen randomly texted me excitedly one Sunday morning. I just went, look at this shit, or words to that effect.
Yeah. No, I think I had the same reaction as you. I thought it was fake. I thought it was a parody trailer. I didn't think it was an actual fucking film.
No.
I still don't, to be fair.
So Helen sent the trailer, which then led us down a rabbit hole of Christian cinema, which I kind of suspected was a thing. Like there's Christian completely. Everything. Like there's Christian music, there's Christian literature, the Bible, hello, and there's Christian cinema, obviously. But I didn't realize just how big a thing Christian cinema was, and I didn't realize that there was this whole kind of industry sprung up around it, and they have their own dedicated streaming platform. And so anyway, this just sent us down a rabbit hole, and so that was enough to kind of earmark this film as one we needed to circle around and come back to. And for whatever mental reason, maybe it was because we did Velocipasta last episode, so Christianity was at the forefront of our mind, we decided to subject ourselves to this thing. I don't think I can call it a film. And I just want to be, I just want to put this all the way out there on Front Street before we start. Okay. I am not a Christian. I am agnostic. I don't particularly care for organized religion in any way, shape or form, but that has not colored my opinion on this film. I want to make that absolutely clear before I rip it to fucking shreds. Okay. This has nothing to do with religion or my beliefs. This has to do with the fact that this is, I'm not going to bury the lead, without any shadow of a doubt, the biggest fucking travesty that has ever been committed to film. Or video in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I came at it with a similar view. I was raised as Christian. I think we were Methodists. I don't fucking know what that means. I used to go to Sunday school and play football, and that was about it. But yeah, I don't have any time for organized religion. I don't ascribe to any particular religion. I can understand the importance of individual faith and stuff like that, but this fucking film, I don't even know what it is.
No.
I can't tell whether it's supposed to be propaganda or whether it's supposed to be some fucking dog whistling, whining bastards going, oh, look, you can't be a straight white male anymore. You can't be a Christian anymore. We're persecuted. Look how bad we've got it. And then comparing the fucking the government to the Nazis. I said, hang on a fucking minute. What?
I mean, we're you know, as I say, I will get it. We're bound to get into religion on this episode, okay, right? But I wanted to make it clear that it hasn't colored my perception of the film. But in that context, Mark, yeah, like you're dead right. One of the many thoughts I had, and Helen and I were showing each other on notes before we started here. Like we've got pages and pages and pages of notes, and my notes
I couldn't even do fucking notes. I was just pulling my hair out.
My notes started, from a technical standpoint, as they normally do, and I was trying to look for story and things like that. I had some comments on the composition and things like that, as we normally do. And then within about half an hour, it had just quickly devolved into stream of consciousness, because I just didn't know what to make of this film. And I think part of it, Mark, is you are exactly right. I think that this is a bunch of people who want to have something to say.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't know what it is that they want to say, and so it comes off like kind of undergraduate art school shit.
Yeah, it's a bit whiny and a bit ranty, and I will give them credit in certain areas. So, for example, if you watch the credits, apart from the immediate first thing, which is special thanks to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, fuck off. If you look at the credits, everybody had about 3 jobs. Because there's only like 8 of them involved. I'll give them credit for that, because they produce something, they put something together, and you've got to give them some props for that. However, what they produced was a big steaming pile of wank.
Yeah, so I did do a little bit of research after the film had finished, actually, because I kind of like to go in as cold as I can. And yes, I agree. Like, we've said this since day one on this show, like, making anything is hard. And this was a very small team with a minuscule budget. The recorded budget for this is 10,000 US, which is even less than we had to play with.
Yeah, I think we. Yeah, so it's fair. It's similar, slightly less than we had.
Right. Yeah, and in fairness, like, okay, there's the odd sort of wonky composition and the odd sort of bit of bad sound recording, but in general, it doesn't look too bad. Like, it looks cheap.
Yeah,
but it is cheap. You know, and in general, I think they've actually done quite well with the funding they've had. And yes, they were a small team that pulled together. The problem that they've had, I'm going to sound like such an arsehole saying this, but I've said it on this show before, so I'm going to say it again. Okay. I think modern technology gives the ability for anyone to make a film. The problem is that doesn't mean that everyone should, unfortunately. Yeah. And these are people who, I get the impression, have bought a book and learned from a book and kind of clubbed together. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's something that should be celebrated, and particularly that kind of collaborative approach. But the problem is, still kind of need talent, unfortunately. They don't have it.
Or just actors that speak the language that you have chosen to shoot your film in.
Well, we'll absolutely get on to that.
I think the other thing as well that's unforgivable is there's not actually a fucking story to this. It's a series of fucking diatribes about how hard it is to be a Christian in this particular
later.
And it's fucking terrible. And I think that's the biggest problem. Is that we've said before, if your story's all right, if your story's tight, it sounds all right, it looks all right, it'll pass. Yeah. The problem is it doesn't look all right. There's soft focus everywhere. There's no.
It looks all right. It looks all right.
It looks all right. It certainly doesn't look good. The sound is fucking awful. The mix is terrible. And there's nothing to hang it on.
No. I actually will skip forward in my notes. We'll skip forward in my notes slightly because, as I say, they are quite stream of conscious anyway. But again, Mark, you're right. I actually described it later on as saying this film is nothing but a series of meetings to plan Christian events. It is literally Parish Council, the movie.
Without the woman who kicked the chair off the fucking meeting.
Yeah, without any of the drama.
It's a much more entertaining parish you can watch.
They're just missing a tombola for a raffle and a cake stall. Like that's all this is missing, really. And to be honest, it's less interesting than that because I can have cakes at a fete.
Also, because one of my big things with films is I like Von-Seal films where your title of your film and your marketing and your poster doesn't have to be an incredible work of art, but I like to look at that and think, this is what I'm getting going in. And so if you call your film 2025, The World Enslaved by a Virus, and the virus does not feature in any way, shape or form, other than occasionally people are wearing masks, but we're not doing social distancing. We're not doing, this is apparently a thing, but we don't see this, even with the authorities, then, dude, just...
That's a huge issue, and I do comment on that later as well.
That was for me as well, because similar. I don't necessarily need to know on Front Street what things are, but if you are going to front load things, then you need to follow through. It took me a while to twig actually that the people wearing masks. The only reason they're wearing masks is because they're also the fucking other side of the act. No, it's the actors playing the other side, and they didn't have enough people. So it took me about 20 minutes to twig that. But so you think, okay, well, fair enough. They've kind of gone for that. But then if they're wearing masks, why isn't everybody wearing masks?
Yeah, and they're also, if you're going to go for this, you really need to go for it by the jugular, I think, particularly while it's topical. And aside from one or two mentions in throwaway gags, they never, ever refer to the virus as COVID-19 or a novel coronavirus or SARS or anything. They just call it the virus.
Yeah.
So this could be anything.
And the thing is as well, if you're going to do that.
Sorry, but like the virus, before COVID, whenever people talk about the virus, it's fucking zombies.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and I mean, realistically, if they'd gone with another title, and just referred to the virus. This could have been anything, and this could have looked as mediocre as it does now in 30 years and still possibly been applicable, possibly even more so. We don't know how the world's going to go. But by dating it, they very much hamstrung themselves and tied themselves to a period in time which they're not even fucking referring to.
No, what they have done, though, is make it marketable, and fair play to them for that. And that, we're always saying, like, it's not very good and stuff like that. The actual creative process of making a film, as we found out, unfortunately, the hard way, is only half the battle. And the other half of the battle, and the part that's actually really important, is how savvy you are at marketing that film. And that is something that they're absolutely nailed. Not only is it topical, and so therefore, it can get on to a shelf somewhere. Not only does it rely on right-wing fundamentalist Christians who are all fucking loaded, so they're going to get it and watch any old shit that you pilot them. But it's also down to things like, their cover art has got the masks on it. So, that it's 2025. So it starts with numericals, which, and believe me, listeners, this is a thing which we have been told and learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Like, alphabetical order is how your product is going to be on a shelf in a supermarket or a video store or on Amazon, whatever. So if you're numerical, if you're 2025, you are the first thing that a person's going to see when they search for something related to your product. So, they are smart. I'll give them that. Like, it's been well marketed. And that just really annoys me. Outside of the Christian thing, there are loads of really bad low budget horror films that employ this tactic as well. And that really does annoy me, because it's a complete absence of talent, but smart marketing. Yeah. Having said that, look, I dropped £3.50 on it. We did it for this show, I know, but I dropped £3.50 on it. So they've made at least that, 3 times over, because we've all rented it. And by the way, I did only drop £3.50 because I was smart enough to not stump up for the HD. Yeah, I wasn't paying an extra £1 for this.
I nearly fell for that because there wasn't. I did it on my iPad and there wasn't an option. There's a more options button, and I nearly missed it.
No,
so they nearly got me. Fuckers.
I wasn't going to pay the extra £1 for this.
I need to cock up and buy it this time.
Yeah, no, fucking hell.
That's my usual trick. What did I spend £8 on Amazon for? What the fuck's that?
That's the thing as well, isn't it?
Though after this one, I'm back to being just like, do you know what? I'm back in Team Versus after this.
Yeah, but the thing is, with even things like Versus and stuff like that, I ripped that apart as well. But that has entertainment value. It's the type of thing where, for a good 10, 15 minutes at least, if you've got somebody around and you've had a drink, you can go, fucking look at this. Look at this shit. You can't do that with this. This is just fucking awful and will bore everyone to tears. I regret every single penny of that £3.50 that I spent on this fucking thing. Yeah. And I want it back.
I don't because it's tainted now. Even if I had it back, even if they gave it back to me tomorrow, I wouldn't want it.
Yeah. It took me about 8 hours to get through it because I kept on having to stop and get more alcohol. And then as I said to Chris, I drank all of my Prosecco and then I had to have a nap halfway through.
I mean, I powered through it in one sitting because I knew there was a point I text you guys about the 50-minute mark, and I really wanted to stop. I really, really wanted, and I never had that on this show.
And I can tell where that is as well, actually, because I had a similar thing. I took number one to gymnastics, and I sit outside the gym rather than coming home. And by the time I get back, I'm going to turn around and go back again. So I sat outside and so watched half of it in the car. And I think it's 47 minutes where I had to turn it off, and then we went back to it. And round about that time, there's a very definite shift from all of a sudden you're having these 2 and 3 handers with the leads to all of a sudden they introduce the government in real terms, and you actually see them. They're actually getting involved in stuff. And there's a very different. I mean, it's tonally bad, and then it gets tonally worse, and that's the point where it shifts.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I really did want to stop. I was getting to the point where, in my head, I was just like, I don't think I can take this. This is making me miserable. And I've never had that on this show before. But I knew that if I stopped, there was absolutely no way in hell that I was ever going back to this. So I had to power through.
Yeah, I found it difficult. So I was 47 minutes. So that's about halfway through. I think there was it was just shy of 90 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it was just about halfway through, and I was saying if I didn't have to stop, I wouldn't have, because otherwise I was thinking, fuck, I can't carry on with this, because it's just an absolute downer of a film for the first 47 minutes, and then it gets worse.
It's fucking horrendous. Horrendous.
So bad.
Okay, so let's dive into it. We've set the scene beautifully. I think, listeners. Look, I'll attempt to lead us through it in the way that I normally do. I'll attempt to lead us through it beat by beat, but honestly, fuck all happens. So we'll just see where this takes us, and we'll try and get through it. We've certainly got enough to say, so I'm sure we'll go off in plenty of random directions. It's also hot as balls again tonight, so
yeah,
I could get loopy within about 10-15 minutes if I don't pass out. So strap yourselves in. This could get bumpy. So to start with, like I've already covered the cost of it. Like, and again, normally on the show, I'm all for, like I still stand by my comments. Last episode with Velocipasta, like I want to reach out and pay those guys. Whereas these guys, if I saw them in the street, I would demand my £3.50 back. So that was my first note.
I don't
was
think
like,
he struggled to get it back as well, because like the lead, like let's be honest, he's always had his pocket money stolen by bullies at school.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So that was my first comment. Really, was I've rented this in SD because fuck paying an extra quid for this. It's like I knew. But then we're straight in with an opening blurb, and you know I'm always a big fan of getting all of the exposition out the way early. Like I'm all for it. Like if you want to like front load it, don't bother with flashbacks, just front load everything. So I'm actually all for an opening blurb, but in this case, it would help if it actually followed the rules of the English fucking language, wouldn't it? Because like, and it's not me to pick up on this stuff, right? This is normally more of a Mark thing, but they comment that it's 2025 and the virus has had its effect and stuff like that. And the words they use, right, is that communism is everywhere.
Yeah, like fucking herpes.
Yeah, I laughed out loud at that.
No,
one.
in fact, the words are communism is all over the place. Actually, is what they use, and so it's like, is it everywhere? As in, communism is all over the place, like it's everywhere in every country.
Yeah.
Or do they mean it's a fucking mess? Communism's all. Have you seen communism today? He's all over the fucking place. When I left him last night, he was still doing shots at 2 a.m. He's all over the fucking place. Like, seriously, guys.
Well, this is the thing. I think the problem is, and we touched on this last night, Helen, is that I think they kind of explain away the fact they're all speaking English because there's this fucking, they've decided on this one world government and global language and all that shit. Fine with that. Yeah. But the problem is it's like they've gone, well, if we write it in German and really loosely translate it, it'd be fine. Nobody give a fuck. So there was that became an issue. I think that's where that particular thing has come from. It's been written in German and then literally translated in Google. So the translation doesn't fucking work. The other thing I had with the blurb, right, is that, meetings are illegal, traveling is illegal, Christianity. Why Christianity? Why not all religions?
Because Christianity specifically is what this film is about, Mark. And as you know, the Christians throughout history have always been persecuted, never had the upper hand.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit in the film as well where they point out how they were watching the videos of like coming out of Syria and things, of like all the atrocities because the Christians were being persecuted. Because obviously that's what you take away when you see these videos of the conflict in the Middle East, is those poor fucking Christians.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this was immediately once they start launching into that diatribe. It is about halfway through. I think, in fact, Helen, that was the point where I wanted to give up because I've written in my notes, I'll jump forward a bit, but way forward. But I've written in my notes here that I can't believe it took me that long to dawn on me that actually this is a bunch of Christians complaining that their views are being suppressed and their religious freedoms are being, they're being persecuted for their religious freedoms. And it's just the most distasteful, hypocritical thing
especially
I think I've ever seen. Well, there's that as well, isn't there? That I've literally written that as well. Do they realize the history of their country?
I was going to say, there's got to be. You've got to wonder if there's an intentional irony there, or if they're just really fucking stupid.
Well, look, there are points in this film, and ultimately, I'm coming down to the fact that this is just a pile of shit, right? But there were genuinely points when I was watching this, going, this is either really cleverly executed satire or the worst thing ever made. And there were points where I was watching it going like, I don't know, do they know what they're doing? Like there are, but that's the effect this film had on me, right? My mind was wandering so much because I was so, like, my brain was dribbling out of my fucking ears. And there were points where I'm watching this and those performances, because of the language barrier and because the writing is so sparse and poor, there were points where those performances and the way it's shot as well, and that single camera setup and stuff, there's points where it's almost dogme. in its execution. And I'm like, is this the intent? Like, have they literally just wandered in without a script and gone like, here's a loose idea of what's going on in this scene. The camera's running and go.
And
there are points where that comes through.
You do get that impression, especially with the dialogue, because they kind of trip over their words and they sort of reiterate and they repeat themselves. Like, hang on, and you are right. And I think there were points to that, especially if, I don't know if you. I left the credits running because I was just crying so much. I was just rocking in the corner. And over the start of the credits, where they're introducing the cast, they've all got like bloopers.
Yes.
And you do get the impression they're just kind of, right, that's what you want to say. Say something about that. And it's not scripted at all. It's not scripted. It's just like, here's your beats, hit them, get on with it.
And the thing is, when that's actually really well executed, as in when you've got, I'm going to say it, I hate knocking people on this show, but when you've got a director who knows what he's doing, which this one clearly doesn't. Okay, when you've got a strong story and a director that understands how to tell that story, I find that really appealing. I find that natural delivery is actually really, really engrossing. And it can kind of just transition you into that world. And there are points here where I was watching it going, this is actually quite interesting from a performance standpoint. What they're doing here is quite interesting, but I've ultimately decided that it's absolutely not intentional and they're just fucking their lines up, but they have the ability to run with it. But it's interesting you mentioned those bloopers again, because when I got to the end, I started watching the bloopers. And that brought me all the way back around to, as we talked about at the start, like, it's just a bunch of friends making a film, though, innit? And I kind of felt bad about everything I've written then. But then within 5 minutes, I read my notes back and just went, no, absolutely not. Fuck these assholes.
Yeah, fair.
So we get this opening blurb, which is terrible, and then just doesn't follow the rules of English at all.
We're 25 minutes in, and we only just got off the fucking blurb.
Yeah, I told you. I'll try and lead us through this as best I can, but it's a fucking mess.
I've got like 10 pages of notes, Mark.
Yeah. Then we're into, as you described it, Mark, and I agree. Even though it's the best thing in the film, we're into one of the worst car chases I've ever seen, and I don't know whether they actually thought that this scene was really frantic and fast-paced, because it's really handy that they made sure to write police on the number plate of the police car so I could tell the difference between the two cars in the scene.
Just in case the blue light and the fact it's a completely different fucking car didn't give it away.
Just in case that got lost in the breakneck pace of this action, where they're all clearly driving at about 15 miles an hour or something.
I mean, not only that, not only that, my nan was a shit driver, right? Like she used to probably have like 2 or 3 accidents a year, to a point where you can't fucking drive anymore. You're a danger to everybody on the road, including me. So fucking pack it in. She's been dead for 12 years. She's still a better driver than this cunt. No, it's just like, as I say, he's driving about 5 miles an hour. But he can't stay on the fucking road.
No.
I know. He's constantly like.
He's in the ditch and he's off the side. And then it's really funny that he has to do a handbrake turn onto that farm track, which because they shot so fucking far away, you can see it coming a bastard mile off anyway. You might as well have fucking indicated.
In fairness, the one thing I will say for this sequence, right? Don't get me wrong, it's fucking tedious, it's poorly shot, it's very badly executed. It's terrible, right? But the one thing I will say for it is, for all of that, at least you could tell it's definitely happening live. Like, absolutely no CGI involved whatsoever.
Very true.
You've also, and this is kind of the problem when we come down to the thing about saying it's a group of friends making a film and stuff like that. I didn't realize till we got to the end that our lead was also our writer and our director, right? Or part of the writing team and directing team anyway. So I probably would have cut him even less slack than I do if I'd known that. But one of the things with that is, if he's the guy doing this and he's the guy in the car, I can't help, because of who I am and the experiences that we've had, I can't help but put myself in that situation. And I know if I was the one in that situation playing the lead and driving that car, you, Mark, would be absolutely bollocking me for going way too fast, handbrake turning, losing control of that car completely, because there is no way that I'm half-arsing it.
No.
This is my film. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to make sure this looks fucking amazing.
Let's be fair.
Yeah, Helen would be in the passenger seat out of shot going, go on.
If you were doing it, you two be in the car fucking about and somebody be on the fucking bonnet hanging on for grim death.
That is exactly what would happen. I would have somebody strapped to the bonnet with a camera as well. Hey, we're only health and safety professionals. What does it matter?
Fuck it.
Fine. But it's things like that when you're looking at this film then and you go, yeah, you had a low budget, but that doesn't mean you need a pedestrian chase scene. Like, just got to go for it. And if you don't go for it, and you're not invested, then nor will the audience be. And we're not. Sadly, it is the best thing in the film. And it is the only reason I think that this film is billed as an action film. Because after this...
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. This is billed, genre-wise, this is billed as an action film. After this... there is zero fucking action whatsoever.
Well, that's not true because we do get the slap-head around the world, which isn't Will Smith, and then we do get the car chase again because they haven't got enough footage to play the on screen, so they just play the entire fucking thing again.
Yeah, they really do. So we got the awful fucking chase sequence followed up by an interrogation sequence. Which,
the interrogation. Right, okay. So this is the point where I started to get really annoyed with my notes. Because, so world enslaved by a virus. World enslaved by a virus. Right. So when the police come, they've got the masks on. Great. Loving that because that automatically says, look at us with our safety procedures. But then he's in the interrogation room. There's no fucking perspex shielding. Also, what needs to happen is I wanted him to be forcefully, COVID tested before he had that police officer come in to check him. Shove something up his nose, make it look really brutal and stuff, like a torture thing. Get your point in. If you're going to be just raw COVID, fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Wimps.
100% agree. As we've said already, unfortunately, the virus is just a marketing hook for this because that would instantly have set the tone. And actually, the mask thing, as you say, Mark, there is clearly a practical reason behind it, but it's something that annoys me all the way through because they can't seem to decide if the virus is still out there or not.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that our leads are the ones, they never say it, but you get the impression they're all a bit like, the virus was all a government hoax, and they're those fucking COVIDiot people.
Yeah.
But there are points where even they are wearing masks outside. And it's like, look, if you're not going to comply...
But they're wearing them in
the fucking revolution...
There's nobody else around.
Yeah, if you're the revolution, don't wear the masks.
Well, that's it. Make you stand.
Yeah, what the fuck? So, so they're in... But, I mean, in fairness, if we think it's bad at this point that they're inside an interrogation chamber without any perspex or anything like that, I mean... Later on, we get cops who literally have T-shirts with iron-on police badges on them. So I don't think this is something that we should really be.
No, the thing that got me in this scene, apart from the COVID stuff, which I agree Helen would have made it infinitely better, was that he starts off. The cop puts the two books down on the table. One's a Bible, one's like the German fucking legislature or whatever. Oh, those aren't mine.
That's called Mein Kampf.
No.
Sorry.
I think this is the reboot.
Sorry, look, there is going to be plenty of Nazi jokes throughout this, so we may as well just set our stall out now.
Also, I need to say that the comparison is really unfair because the lead is basically the really shitty, scrawny, shrimpy, bullied all his life version of Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5, which is the one with the religious cult. And I definitely got those vibes when they had that shot of the pews by the river with the cross on it. I was just like, fuck, it's Far Cry 5.
Yeah. I did get that as well. But the bit that bugged me, apart from the COVID stuff, the bit that bugged me, he puts the books in down. I've never seen this before in my life. And then he starts reeling off all the bits he's crossed out. Just hang on, you've just denied they're yours. Now you're fucking admitting it.
Yeah.
Under interrogation. Within 5 seconds, he hasn't even slapped you yet. No, literally, nobody shone a light in his eyes.
See, this is the other thing. All the way through, we're constantly told that the police are oppressive and this is a police state, and they go. Not as far as I can see, they're not. I've met plenty of coppers in my time, and this one is perfectly polite. But as far as I'm concerned,
not only that, it's a police state. They don't have any freedom, but they fucking walk the streets and spray paint everything they can see.
I've literally written that later on. They're complaining. They're complaining about how they don't have any freedoms and all this and that, and everything's been oppressed, and yet they seem to live in a very nice apartment in an affluent area. They're all wearing designer clothes. They run around with whoever they want, whenever they want. Yeah. So a bunch of middle class arseholes. Is
But
Yeah,
what
also,
it is.
where's
that
the curfews? Where's the
interrogation-
barbed wire? Where's the
Yeah.
dogs chasing you if you're out 2 minutes after lights out? You know, where's all of that? If you see your police state and it's that oppressive, actually fucking show us that.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
just a couple of coppers who are a bit no. Oh, they've got guns.
The interrogation scene as well, though, because initially it's shot with sort of side on and side on, and you've got a mirror where you can kind of sort of see the lead, but again, he's still at a slight angle.
Yeah.
And then there's that fantastic moment where the camera comes round and we see our lead full frame for the first time. And he's so shrimpy with these bulging eyes behind his glasses. I had to stop. I was laughing.
I kind of applaud the effort, though. Like, I will
Yeah.
say, like, yes, it's very poorly written. We already know from this scene, like, as soon as they start talking, we're like, oh, fuck, it's going to be like that because the performances are so bad.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be heavy-handed with religion, but, you know, for all he's clearly miscast because they don't have any money and he's the director, like, to be fair, like, this scene is, you know, is well lit, it's well graded, it's well composed. It sounds like shit, but, you know, at the moment, I'm going like, these performances are going to hurt, but at least this looks okay.
And I think
Like-
that's part of the problem as well, is that because, like, we've had the car chase, or I say chase, no, somebody parking. We've had that, and then you do get some effort goes into the shooting of this particular scene.
Yeah.
And I said it's lit well, it looks all right. And I think part of the problem then is that it goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, whenever you're in their apartment, it looks like a fucking episode of The Bachelor. It's just
Well, again, for the money they had, I think they lit that apartment well, and they had the sense to use practicals in the scenes and their compositions. The problem is that they use the same setups every single time, and that's why it looks like an episode of a TV show, because every time they're in that apartment, which is
It's so shot.
99% of the film,
Yeah.
they're shooting into the corner with the desk lamp on it as their practical in the background, and they'll have somebody sat to the left of the screen, somebody sat to the right of the screen. And then there's even a point later on where they've got 4 people in the apartment, whereas previously they've only had 3, which they can all fit in one wide. Once they got 4 people in and they've got to split them up into 2 groups of 2, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. None of the eye lines match. They jump all over the line of action. The lighting is completely wrong. They just have no clue. But they learned how to do this very one specific setup. And they even use it here in the interrogation room.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't even surprise me if this is the same room and they painted the fucking walls, to be honest, because they're using the same setups again. They use them over and over and over, but it's kind of like they've learned one thing, almost like, you know, if you were running lines and you were learning them verbatim, but then you can't perform them. They've done the same thing. Like, they've learned one lighting setup, one composition, and to be fair, they nail it, particularly with the money they've got. Like, you have to bear in mind they're shooting on video as well, so it's always going to look like shit, right? At least it looks like it's shot on video. If it's not, then they've done something very wrong, but it appears to me like it's shot on video. And so that is what it is. So I don't have an issue with that, you know. And I've watched plenty of films that I adore that look way worse than this, believe me. So I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is everything else. But I think it looks okay. I think it's unfair. You know, there are the odd places where they kind of slip, but I think by and large it looks okay. It's just that there's no variety, so it's tedious. You know, so I wouldn't be too hard on that. But you picked up on it clearly, so it annoyed.
Well,
you.
I think the fact that I picked up on it all is something, because I generally, that generally washes over me. I know, as long as I can see what's going on, it's not fucking pitch black, I'm generally going to go, oh, you know what? Unless it really stands out as jarring, then I don't normally notice it. And I think you're right. I think the word you use is tedious. I think you're absolutely right. Is that that's the entire fucking film.
Yeah,
it's 2 shots.
And where it causes them even more problems is that because they're constantly using the same setups, what they haven't done, and it appears what this guy is at this point in his career anyway, and this is his first film, unable to do as a director, is visualize and edit in his head, because they can't cut. Everything is faded. Yeah. Scene transitions are constantly faded. They even fade within scenes and cut within the frame, because they haven't got the footage to shoot around.
Yeah.
They haven't planned this. Nothing's been storyboarded properly. He hasn't blocked anything out. He's just turned the camera on. Again, it comes back to that almost Dogma style where he's turned the camera on and gone, go. And that will work if you're going to do a 90-minute take and follow the actors. But if you're not and you want to cut, then you have to be more prepared than that. And he's not. And so that makes it look poor as well. But I think the actual compositions and the lighting, for this very particular setup that they've learned, they do quite well. It's when they get outside and things like that, that's where it all starts going wrong. Because again, they do not know how to shoot externally. Like even their grading all goes to shit at that point. When they're walking through the subways and stuff, it looks fucking awful. Yeah. Like buy a fucking reflector, guys. Jesus Christ.
But like, I couldn't tell if it was deliberate or not. But even their framing seems to go out the window.
Yeah, because it does. Because they haven't
where
planned
are they?
it.
Yeah. So where are they in the shot? Even if they haven't planned it, you could say, right, on the camera, stick them to the left of the middle, or to the right. Just make sure they're in the same fucking place. Make sure it matches.
Yeah.
So when we are cutting around it, we can actually cut around it.
Yeah.
But they've just gone, oh yeah, well they're over here this time, so they can be over there. They'll be slightly lower this time. That'd be fun. What the fuck for? What are you doing? Yeah. All it does is jump all over the place and just piss on the fact that they're clearly having a whale of a time, fucking vandalizing leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. But I mean, right, to get back into our story, as it were, then. So our lead has been caught. Our lead has been caught by the police, and then starts getting interrogated, and then we flash back. Okay, so this is
favorite thing.
Like, but the thing is, like, the whole fucking story then is apparently told in flashback.
Yeah. So what's the point? Yeah.
What's the exactly? Why open like
especially
this?
when you finish, especially when you get back to the same fucking scene again.
Don't get me started. We'll talk about that when we get there. Otherwise, we're never going to get through this film. Believe me, I've got stuff to say about that.
It's marketing, because remember, when you're trying to sell the film, they don't actually watch your film.
They watch the first 5 minutes.
They'll watch the first 5 minutes.
They watch the first 5 minutes, and then sometimes, if you're lucky, they'll watch it all on super fast forward, absolutely mute with no sound.
And look. Yeah, and as far as writing goes as well, the same thing applies to scripts, right? And it is absolutely imperative that you grab a reader within the first 2 or 3 paragraphs. Like, you always open on action. So I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is then us flashing back for the entirety of our story to find out how he got there. And then, well, I'm going off on one already on it. And then not telling us what the consequence is, because then nothing means anything. But we'll talk about that in a bit, right? So he starts to flash us back, and we get a bit more, well, I can't say we get more exposition. They basically just repeat what they said earlier and just use different words. But he essentially tells us, well, first of all, they explain away the language thing. I'm here for that. All right. They thought about it. Right. Absolutely fine. If English is the language that you have to use, because it's the one unified language, I think that's a good way of setting the scene. What they don't do, though, and what they don't explain, is that if English is the unified language, and again, these are the rebellion, then I can understand talking in English to the police, because they're in a place of authority here, and they're going to be beaten for not doing it, right? But when they're in their flat on their own, why are they not talking in German?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I flagged it up later on as well. It's that when the fucking hacker who will come on to there was a Holly.
Holly, she's here to help.
Yeah. But when she turns up and she's like, I'm not religious and I don't understand and how the prayer works, they pray in German. Yeah. But then they immediately jump back to English. Like, what are you doing?
It's because Holly, who's here to help, clearly doesn't speak English, and for that first scene learned every line phonetically. Right. And then when it got to a big meaty scene for her, her brain exploded. I've kind of got a soft spot for her, being honest, because she's so fucking bad, and that character is so miscast. I'm going to talk a lot about Holly, who's here to help, when she shows up. So we get the explanation of the language, and then he starts to tell us about how all of these rights have been stripped away from them. So, they have to use this language. Religion is outlawed. They're living on the breadline. The government, they're in a police state, and they've even removed the right for peaceful protest. And again, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, topical. This might go somewhere. They've clearly lived under a Tory government.
Yeah. But to be fair, in another 3 years, we could be exactly the same fucking place.
Oh, no, I'm being serious. We are there now. Our right to peaceful protest is being stripped away from us as we speak, and people seem to be ignoring it.
Yeah.
Like this is happening. but this film isn't intelligent enough to actually address that.
No.
But this is happening in the UK as we speak. So there's that. And then it's my first rumination then, where I've got like, I can't decide if this script is bad, the performances are bad, or the performers simply do not understand the words that they're saying. It's possibly one of them. All three. It is all three, as I work out later on. But at this point, I'm kind of just ruminating on it. Like, which is it? Is it badly written? Is it badly performed? Or, is it just badly directed and they don't understand what they're saying? It is all three. Absolutely. So I've just skipped over a bunch of story then. We have our meetings between, like, they flash back and we're in the flat and there's the three of them in the flat. There's our Judas, whose name I forget. Hang on. Luke. Of course it's
because
Luke.
He's not called Judas, he's called Luke.
Luke, yeah. He should be called Judas, but that would be
traditional German name, Luke.
Yeah, that would be too obvious, right? Yeah. So they have a discussion. Luke leaves because he can't take the heat anymore and this is too much and he's had enough. He's a fair weather Christian, basically. Off he goes.
Aren't they all?
Which leaves Hannah. I believe it's Hannah, isn't it? Is it Hannah?
Yeah.
It's another H name, isn't it?
Hannah and is he Roy?
I did not get his name.
Yes,
is it
he
Roy?
was Roy. I remember that from the end credits.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leaves us with Hannah and Roy, who start having a discussion, and for a minute, when it's just the two of them in the flat and it's reasonably low lit with this setup that they've got. It's quite warm. They're shooting towards the corner. It's on video. And then she turns to him and says, I feel like we're the only Christians left in the world. And in the back of my head, I'm just going, bow, wow, wow. Because this just feels like the setup for a porno here.
Yeah. And then you find brother and sister.
Yeah, they're brother and sister.
I know.
It took me until pretty much 10 minutes before the end before I worked it out.
Oh, I didn't even work it out until it becomes, he starts to have a relationship which isn't really explored later on in the film. And I'm like, hang on,
he
what happened to the other one?
Point. He references that it's his sister at some point, but it's not clear.
I think it's when the Marine comes in as well. She mentions that she's there with her brother, just so you understand that she's available for the Marine to fuck, basically.
The problem is, though, because she's one of the non-native English speakers, because the Marine is actually...
He's American.
He's American. Yeah. But when she's talking to the Marine and she's explaining her life story and what happened to her, she's using, this happened to me and this happened to me and I had this and this was my parents, because she's not got a good enough grasp of English to be able to use my and our.
Yeah.
Which meant that initially I was so confused with when she said the brother, I didn't relate that it was the two of them were meant to be brother and sister because of how she delivered that entire speech. And I think that was because don't speak English again.
Yeah.
Do it in German.
Well, this is the thing, and I've got to be honest. And if you're looking at it, you're absolutely right. If this is your underground and you're sticking it to the man, why speak in their language?
They absolutely should not be speaking in their language. They should deliberately not be speaking in their language.
And if I've got to read this film, to be honest, I'm probably giving it more of a pass because I'll be concentrating so much on what I'm reading. I'm not going to notice so much.
Right. I still don't think I'd like this, but I would be coming at it, with 100% better attitude if this was performed in German and I was reading this. But it would improve it 100%.
Yeah, I think the only problem I would have with that is I'd notice even more fucking typos in the subtitles.
Well,
because there were a lot.
Yeah, but I think I don't know that you would notice them, because I think you'd at least get a level of performance that would draw you in to watch this if they were speaking in their native language. I think a big part of this issue, they're probably not good, but I think they'd be passable. Nobody here is winning a fucking Oscar, right? But they would be passable if they were speaking in German at least.
It would feel a little bit less like an oral exam through GCSE language.
Yes, exactly. So then we get our first couple of horrible scene transitions, which I've written. Everything's a fade. This is horrible. And then the music starts. Yeah. And I genuinely thought for a minute, I'm pretty sure I've heard this song before in 365 days. But then I realized it's just auto-tuned Europop. And it all sounds the same. Yeah. But for a minute, I really did think, are they using because that was the performers in 365 days doing that music. So then that sent me on a bit of a rabbit hunt of actually, is there any connection here? I mean, like, are any of these guys involved? No, they weren't. It's just auto-tuned Europop and it sounds shit.
And the levels as well. The music levels were all over the fucking place.
Yeah, and then they're
Like
outside then wearing masks, right? So
Yeah,
we've
go
already
figure.
discussed that. So yeah, we could bypass that. But like,
But the whole thing as well. So before they go outside, they had this talk about back in the olden days where they used to use the fish symbol and all the rest of it. So, okay, fine, you're giving us a bit of history, right? That'll work. But then you think, oh, well, where's this going to go? So the very next scene, they're outside spray painting, but they're spray painting fucking leaves, which will blow away.
yeah, I don't understand the point of the whole spray painting graffiti thing.
Well,
Look,
yeah.
here's the problem with all of this, right? I get that they're trying to start some underground movement.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, all they're doing is spray painting fish on a wall.
Yeah, because
like,
it doesn't tell anybody what's going on.
Where to go or what
yeah.
they're doing. No. And that's what we need to see. We don't need to see them go out and graffitiing a wall because, remember, the world has been destroyed. This is supposed to be dystopia. So why should it fucking matter if somebody decides to go and spray a fucking fish on a wall that's been, half derelict for the last 3 years anyway? Nobody's going to care. What they should be doing is fly postering everywhere.
Yeah.
Like sermon tonight at this random address or whatever. Or at least if they're going to spray paint arrows or something, like a fish with an arrow in the tail. Like, it needs to mean something. And I also feel it would mean more if it was an adaptation of the fucking Jesus fish as well.
Yeah.
Because yes, the fish is a symbol of humanity and what would Jesus do and all of that. But like, they're starting fresh. They're starting anew. Yeah. So like, do something new. Make them neo-Christians or something. Give them something. Make them interesting. Because they're fucking not. Yeah. Quite simply, all they're doing is going out and spray painting a wall. Yeah. They're not even doing it in a cool way. Like if they were on rollerblades or skateboards or something.
Yeah, just doing it without stopping and just on the fly and.
They're not good at the spray painting as well. Like they've got the close-ups and they can barely operate the spray cans. It's like,
how fucking difficult is it to spray paint?
It's really not. It's not. Spray the paint.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look,
teenage me never struggled.
Don't get me wrong. Like art, like proper graffiti art, is something else entirely.
Yeah, that's a different story. But to literally do 2 lines on a pavement,
and also, again, like if you know that you're doing this and you know that you're not very good at spray painting, just do a cross instead of a fish.
Or you don't see them doing it. You never actually see them doing it because when you see what's being sprayed on, it's all close up. So get somebody who knows what they're fucking doing to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So we get, again, what passes, I guess, for an action scene where they're just out graffiti and everything. Yeah. Fucking terrible. And then she gets shot. The police shows up. She gets shot.
It's not obvious initially as well that she was shot because there's no blood any fucking where.
Well, there's no blood, and also he shoots. About 5 seconds later, she grabs her arm, and 20 seconds later, she decides to fall over.
Well, does she get shot in her arm or her leg? It is her arm, isn't it?
It's her arm, isn't it?
Because
she grabs
because when she's being carried off later, she's limping.
Yeah, so, I think she forgot.
Yeah, so do I. And maybe she fell awkward on her leg or something. I don't know. But then the Marine shows up out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, because we've had snippets of him, haven't we? Because we've seen like close up of his boots. So when they walk through the woods, there's a close up of his boots and his mask or his scarf over his face and the top of his hat and shit. So you know somebody's watching him. And
completely missed that because they're wearing masks and stuff anyway.
Yeah, but it implies there's some sort of danger following them, right? So again, he thought about it and I go, no, actually, bait and switch, that's fine. Again, would have worked if they'd executed it to a point where anybody fucking noticed.
I totally missed it because they're all wearing masks anyway in graffiti, and I'm so fucking disinterested already, to be honest. I managed to completely miss that. Yeah. So yeah, he shows up, saves her, right? Well, because she's clearly had a lethal shot to the arm.
Well, this was
a good job he's there.
This was the bit that made me laugh, sort of probably uncontrollably for the first time, and I had to pause. It was that she gets shot and falls over about 20 minutes later, and then the Marine, the cop's coming up. So again, he's not going to arrest her. He's going to shoot her again because we're in this police state, and all know she's clearly some sort of highly wanted criminal because she spray painted a wall. And the Marine sort of stalks up behind him, and he bitch slaps him into next Tuesday.
Yep.
Like seriously, I've never seen anybody actually get knocked out from being slapped before. But they're there for a good minute or so after he slaps him.
Yeah.
Before they leave.
Yeah.
So surely you slap him, knock him down, and fucking run.
And fuck off. Yeah. Yeah. Not really a very Christian thing to do either, is it? But
yeah, but he's the one that gets brought into the Christianity. Like, I mean, he's a little bit Christian, but
he's a Christian.
He's a proper
in fact, in the very next scene, and this is my next note, like they go back to the apartment, use the same setups again in the same room, but now she's talking to him, and her opening gambit to him is, "Are you a Christian?" Now, I don't know if anybody else noticed the giant fucking crucifix hanging around his neck, but he's very clearly either a Christian, a vampire slayer, or a fucking 80s gay icon. But he's certainly one of them. Yeah.
This is the point that I went and I got the bottle of Prosecco.
Right. Okay.
So just bear this in mind with my ability to.
But so you have this exchange, and he said, "No, are you a Christian?" And he talks about the fact that him and his girlfriend split up because she didn't support his Christianity enough, and she was kind of on the government side. And then he lost his job in the Marines. It's like, hang on a minute, seriously?
I was too busy trying to work out if he'd come up from Frankfurt, because it's like, why is there a fucking Marine in Germany?
Who fucking knows? Like, we don't actually know what the political landscape is like, do we?
I was getting distracted at this stage. And
yeah. I'm already fucking distracted. Yeah. I'm still questioning throughout this entire scene. I'm like, how did you not see how do you not know he's Christian? Like, he's a US Marine wearing a giant fucking crucifix. Of course he's a fucking Christian. What is wrong with you? Like, but they have this discussion. We get his backstory that, he split up with his girlfriend, which is handy because that makes him available for Hannah. So they're just laying that groundwork there. And then, this is the first point between the two of them where they're talking. And maybe it's because he's speaking English as well, so you notice it more. Okay, but this is the first point where I've started to question, maybe this is intentional. Maybe they don't know what they're saying, and the director's just gone, well, this is your backstory, and this is roughly who you are, and this is where you're coming from in the scene, and off you go. And I think that comes through more because, to his credit, I still don't think he's a particularly good actor, okay? But to his credit, the guy playing the Marine is clearly able to recover his performance. Yeah. When things go wrong, or when she flubs, or when he's going slightly off book, he has enough presence of mind. He doesn't corpse. He can clearly recover his performance, and then it feels quite natural. He does. Yeah, and I got to give him credit for that. He does know how to hold a scene, at least, which is more than I can say for anyone else in this film. So I've got to give him credit. Don't visually
buy him as a Marine, but in terms of his ability to just stick to maintain character, he's the best. He's probably the best one in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because at least he's consistent throughout, because he's still bitching about the fact his girlfriend left him in the closing minutes.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't show up for the closing minutes, but never mind. So well. Yeah, now we start to get fades within the scenes because they clearly haven't planned how they're going to cut around these shots.
Because the first time I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't sure because I was watching it sat outside the gym, and I was watching my iPad, and I genuinely thought it stopped because I ran out of data. Because that has happened to me before, where the screen, it just stops and the screen goes black. I genuinely thought that happened, and then it carried on playing. Why the fuck did you do that?
Interesting you mentioned data, though, because my next note actually is a story one and a world one. So they're having this discussion, and again, they're going over, we've been told this twice already, but because these are two characters meeting for the first time, they're going over how the world has gone to shit, and they're being constantly monitored everywhere they go by the government. So why is the Marine wearing a fucking smartwatch if that's what you're afraid of? And who's operating the smartwatch, and where does he charge it? So, and that's a problem later on as well, when all of a sudden we're hacking and using Google and things, and you're like, right, if this is properly dystopian, where's our power coming from? Because you're an underground rebel cell here, so I need to know. You need to be jacking somebody's power, basically, here. Yeah. And that is kind of alluded to, which we'll talk about when we get there. But then, you're using all of these surveillance tools, and you're worried about being surveilled by the government. What? This makes no sense. And again, this is just attention to detail shit. Somebody needs to go, "Oi, mate, take your fucking watch off." Yeah. You can't wear that.
It's the argument, isn't it? And you've sort of heard a lot during COVID that the vaccine's just a way to inject fucking microchips in just so they can spy on us. Post it on your fucking smartphone on Facebook.
Yep. It's exactly that. Yeah. And then and that conspiracy then, which is clearly what, as I say, what this is shooting for and never quite manages to get across. That's hammered home by the Marine, where he says, oh, they must see everything. Sometimes I think, why don't they just show up? Well, maybe because actually they aren't surveilling everything, and you aren't in this oppressive police state that you think you are, and actually you're just fucking Looney Tunes. That's why, because the rest of the world is actually just getting on with it.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why they don't just show up, you fucking moron. So, you know, and I'm not, like I said, if they've got something to say, that's fine, but they haven't put the work into this. Like, all the way through this, what I'm feeling is that we are being told a lot of things. And I understand they've got budgetary constraints, but we're being told that they're being oppressed. We're being told that there's suppression of their wills. We're being told it's a police state. You need to show it. We need to understand. Even if you just use stock footage, use LA riots or something if you've got to, right at the front, when you've got the blurb, show us that. Let us understand the state of the world. And then shoot cheaply and tell us things. But we have to see it and we have to feel it. One of these motherfuckers should have died at the hands of a cop.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, there is no question about that. Yeah. Or one of them needed to have been arrested and beaten, as we said at the start. Like, we needed to see that for any of this to land.
Well, the thing is, it would have been quite easy because we get a couple of sequences where they're outside, right? We already have people in military uniforms with masks, so you can't see the face. We already have that. So when they're outside, have two of them on patrol. Have a checkpoint, which is literally just them sat on the bonnet of a car in the middle of the road with their fucking machine guns ready. That's enough. That shows you that there's a police presence.
We need to feel this world because it's supposed to be a world other than our own. Yes, it's not far removed from our own. You know, we're not in fucking RoboCop or anything here, but this is a future that isn't ours, and it's supposed to be slightly dystopian, and it's supposed to be close to us. So we need to see that, and we need to understand what it means. So that's really poor. And then we do actually then flash back to some of this, or cut over, to some of this surveillance that they're talking about. We spend some time in the police station for the first time. We get introduced to a whole bunch of characters again, very, very quickly. Yeah. And just so we understand.
I have issues with the milk to cereal ratio that's coming.
Yeah.
Up.
Yes.
What the fuck was that about?
Yes. But before we get that, we get these files that are pulled on them, and our police chief, and this is important later on, and they may as well have a big flashy neon sign above this girl's head saying important plot twist, where he says, I'm going to go and give these to my daughter. Fucking hell. What a poor performance. She's even worse. But then we get a cut in frame because they splice two scenes together and don't know how to do it. So he literally jumps from one side of the screen to the fucking other, and they just splice two shots together. It's inexcusably bad. Yeah. Like, you'd be better off just losing the fucking scene and working with it, because that is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So yeah, there's that. There's the whole milk to cereal thing. But before all of that, we do get a mention of the virus properly. The one time that it's mentioned as corona, if anything, is in the next scene where all three of them are walking together. Hang on. Before I do this, just wait a minute. I'm going to have to go and get my... I'm back. I've got my laughing trousers on. Prepare yourselves. Right? Prepare yourselves. What did corona do to Jesus? Nothing.
Sorry, it's a really good job I've got my corset on. My sides would have fucking split.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm wearing my laughing trousers. You can't hear it, but I'm laughing internally, Mark. Honestly,
I think I'm
they
bleeding
are holding
internally.
My ribs together.
I mean, fucking hell.
What the fuck?
Well, I mean, you've always got the argument as well. They did nothing because Jesus was fictitious anyway. But, you know. Yes,
true.
How many Christians can you offend in one podcast? The answer is a fucking lot.
Love it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, that joke's just distasteful to start with.
Is it
right, on so
joke,
many
though?
levels? That's the thing. It's not funny. It's distasteful on so many levels. Like, yes, you can offend Christians with it. You can offend the fucking millions of people that have lost their fucking lives all over the world and have lost people to this fucking disease, right? What the fuck are you playing at this point? Like, There is no need for that line to exist.
But again,
it gives us no character information.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to what we were saying earlier, is that this doesn't know what it is, and it doesn't know where it's pitching because it doesn't know what it's trying to say.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it
hasn't got a clue. It's just tonally wrong.
Yeah.
Tonally wrong.
But it's tonally wrong even for the product, let alone society in general. Yeah. It doesn't fit with what they're trying to do, whatever the fuck that is.
It's horrendous. And then there's another joke as well, but I couldn't write that one down because this was the point. This film had annoyed me up until this point. It was that exact joke that checked me out. That was the point where I was like, no, you've lost me now. There is nothing you can do to come back from this. This is awful. That is some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard. It's entirely pointless, has nothing to do with the story, doesn't add anything to the character, and is very poorly delivered. Just fuck off and give me my £3.50 back. But, we all know...
You really want that £3.50 back, don't you?
I really do. Look, times are hard, man. Fucking hell.
To be fair, that is like, a litre and a half of petrol.
Yeah. We all know Christians aren't funny, right? We all know they haven't got a sense of humour, but this isn't doing anybody any fucking favours. We'll see
how much of a sense of humour they've got when this fucking drops on Saturday.
Fuck them. Don't care. Don't care. Come at me, Christians. You and your fucking magic space god. Fuck off.
My book didn't do them. This won't do any fucking difference.
Yeah. Then we do get something genuinely funny. Because then they're walking through an underpass. And there is graffiti everywhere. And one of them gets absolutely scared shitless by a spray painting of a Goomba, which is topical for this show as well. They just see a scary Goomba on the wall and absolutely shit their pants.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious.
Do you think, sorry, I'm going to be going off on tangents now because this is the point where my notes have descended into drink, more Prosecco, drink. Where's the Prosecco gone?
Yeah, this film should have been a drinking game, actually, shouldn't it?
Oh, we did devise one.
Because what happens is that if you do that, you have to stop halfway through and have a nap. But do you think the reason why they fail so much at showing oppression is because they genuinely just don't understand what oppression actually is?
Yes, absolutely,
yeah,
Helen. You are. This film has been made by a bunch of white middle-class people who have absolutely no idea what actual hardship is like, and they have nothing of any import to say and nothing to add to the world. So they've tried to skew things through their lens, and they have no idea. So they're not making a film that's true to them. They're not using a story that they understand. This is what they think oppression looks like from what they've read and what they've seen on TV, and probably from watching fucking Blade Runner half a dozen times, but they haven't got the budget for that. They don't understand what a dystopian future state should look like, and they don't understand what they genuinely don't understand what communism is. That's a problem as well.
Yeah,
they say communism is everywhere. This is not communism.
It's fucking Germany. It's Germany, and the thing is okay, they're too young to remember East Germany and Stasi and all the rest of it. But I was just thinking the whole time, okay, if communism is everywhere, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can understand Germans being anti-socialism because we know that they've had bad run-ins with socialism in the past. But, it was only in the 90s, wasn't it, that the Berlin Wall came down? And
late
so...
80s.
89, I think.
Yeah, like David Hasselhoff on top of the wall. Yeah. But the point being is it's still very much something that should be in their culture and stuff. So for all that they're talking about an oppressive police state, they don't have to look that hard to actually have they could just talk to their parents and they'd know what that actually fucking looks like, and they just don't.
Like I said, the big thing for me here, and I know they have a budgetary problem, right? But the big thing for me is they're moaning about oppression and they're moaning about this government state and how they're the rebel cell and stuff. And they clearly live very comfortable, affluent lives in this flat with all the technology they could want and designer clothes. None of them are starving. They have no idea. They're free to go on long walks in the countryside together, apparently, to gaze longingly into each other's eyes. This isn't oppression. They have no fucking clue what oppression is. They're actually living a pretty idyllic life, to be honest. They just need to moan about something. Maybe fucking Waitrose was out of quinoa this week. I don't know. But something is pissed them off. That's the level these guys are operating at,
Yeah.
It is
very
annoying.
much
It's
so.
very fucking annoying. So, right, where were we? Now was the best bit of the film, because now there's a mysterious, shadowy figure watching all of this on a computer, which is handy because we've been told that they're being watched. And then immediately there's a knock at the door and we find out that it's Holly who's here to help. God love her. That line, I'm Holly and I'm here to help, right? If that was delivered...
It's almost as bad as I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you.
No, if that was delivered by somebody, for instance, and I mean this as a compliment, for instance, by somebody with Helen's disposition, I would absolutely adore this character. You know, if she was really bright and sunny and just like there's all of this horrible dystopian shit going on, and all of a sudden this lovely, sweet, bright, sunny girl shows up and goes, "Hi, I'm Holly and I'm here to help." Like, they have so miscast
Look at
her.
my stuffed unicorn.
Yeah, they have so miscast her, haven't they? Because that's what this character should be, based on that line alone. Like, just instant comedy value, right? No. She's a miserable fucking goth, because we have to live up to stereotypes. We have to. Because if the mid-2000s taught us nothing, is that most hackers are geek girls. Yeah, that's what they are. And they all wear way too much mascara and wear ripped fishnets and have tattoos. That's what the mid-2000s taught us. So let's go with that, because let's not forget, these are Christians who have probably never actually encountered somebody like this in real life either. Well, so this is what they this is what they think. This is what they think a person like that should look like.
And you know she's a serious hacker because she's lit in green.
Yeah. It doesn't help that she's a fucking atrocious actress. Like, I actually feel sorry for her. I really do. I feel sorry for her because she's such a fish out of water. She's clearly somebody that they've just roped in because they needed somebody and she happened to be there. And I feel really bad for her. Like, she is.
I'm not sure who she was, but if you look at the credits, they're all
family members and friends, and
they're either through marriage or they're brothers and sisters. But she's like, come on, we need an extra one. Come on, fucking get on with it. Just turn up for a day.
She's the only person and only character in this entire film, despite being horrendously miscast, that I've actually got time for. And it's because she's so hilariously miscast and so out of her depth that I'm just like, oh, bless her. Like, she's giving it a go. She is trying, isn't she? You know, I mean, she's very fucking trying, I'm sure.
They all are,
but she is, she is. But I just cannot understand how anyone in their right mind sees that line and doesn't instantly go over the top with it. And it baffles me. Holly, who's here to help, like, it writes itself, that character. It really does.
Especially because it follows with the whole, "Are you a traitor?"
Yes, exactly. And because they're so Christian and should be so nice and everything.
Yeah.
Like, she should be this person that's still living in this idyllic little middle England Christian town somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Where everybody is going to bake sales every Sunday and everybody knows everybody. And that's who that character needs to be. Just so happens that she used to like porn a lot, so she was on the internet a lot, and she knows how to work Google, because that apparently is all hacking needs. There you go. I've instantly created a far more interesting character for everybody.
Also,
is that not what? Is more to it than that? I didn't realise.
Also, I've got to say, there's the scene a lot later on. Sorry to jump around, but let's face it, we're going to be doing this.
We've been doing it all the way through.
Between Holly and the sister, just after Holly gets the necklace, and I'm not going to lie, one of my notes is, so the sister and Holly, if they weren't Christians, they'd be banging.
Oh God, yeah.
Completely. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is all there for the taking, right? And part of that might just be the film that we want to see in our personal preference, but it makes it much more interesting, and it makes these characters more interesting as well.
The fucking test card makes us more interesting.
Just because they're Christians, they don't have to be fucking boring, do they? Like, give them depth, for fuck's sake.
This is the thing, and I mean, you get this, and you get this across media as well. It's not just in films like this, but you can be a Christian and still have relatively traditional beliefs. You don't have to be a dick about it, and it doesn't have to be over the top. You know, you can still have depth of personality.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
For whatever reason, it's just as soon as you launch into any religion, as soon as you start portraying it in media, you have to become these very obvious stereotypes that nobody's actually looked at and gone, oh yeah, well that's clearly what all Christians are. It's clear all Muslims are like, because that's what we've seen on TV. So we'll just carry on perpetuating that. And it's fucking horrible. And actually, when you look at it, I think there's a lot more they could have done with this, and it probably would have saved the film if they'd actually allowed the characters to develop a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, Holly's a prime example here as well. You know, if you want to take her another direction, I've just given you one direction you can take her. If you want to take her the other direction, which is the way they've actually gone with this character, she's not a Christian when this starts. She's just essentially a hacker, right? She is proper underground resistance material. She just wants to fuck the government.
Yeah, she just sees the world as shit and wants to fix it.
So let's explore that. Why is she that way? Has she lost somebody through all of this? Why does she hate the government? Does she come from a background where she was like, there's all of this stuff you can pile on, and then if you really want to try and convert people with this film, then Christianity saves her, and we go through that journey with her instead of the horrendous thing we get later on with the child that's lost his parents, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, we get Holly, who's here to help, and she decides to start hacking for them. And this is me reading into this, and I think I've given them entirely too much credit. So I'll read you my notes as they go, because stream of conscious. Why the fuck is she hacking from the meter cupboard? Oh, hang on. Maybe they don't have electricity because they're being oppressed. Maybe she's jacking into the neighbor's electricity. No, we're not going to explain this at all. That's how my notes go. But she is clearly hacking from the meter cupboard.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Yeah,
Why?
I was thrown by this as well. My notes are montage. What the fuck is happening? I'm having more alcohol.
Yeah, and by the way, when I say hacking, I mean using Google. Yeah. Which is not the same.
And I was struck actually, especially when you get big budget films, they'll pay licenses and they'll have permission to use logos and shit. When you're doing low budget shit and you haven't got license for fuck all, you cover every bastard thing. Not these fuckers.
Nope.
Google, Under Armour, Nike, Microsoft.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But what it does as well as opening them up to potential lawsuits, what it does as well is paint the wrong picture of the world. Because if they're wearing Nike and Under Armour, and these clothes are clean as well, they haven't even scuffed them up.
Yeah.
Like, they're not poor, oppressed people, are they?
No,
Under Armour is not cheap. Nike is not cheap. So they've got money. They can buy these things.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't add up. At least get a bit of tape and cover the logo. Like, it's not fucking hard, is it?
Well, that's what the cop did in the first one, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had his duct tape across the
front.
Yeah.
My mind has started to wander now, Helen. So it's not just you that went for Prosecco. My notes really do start to go off the reservation here. This is approaching the point where I started to check out and text you guys, but I've started to ruminate a bit more on, well, what's the story here? Why is Christianity outlawed? They haven't explained it at all. No. Like they've just said that it is.
Well, this was my thing, is that surely, if you're having this one oppressive government, police state, surely all religion is outlawed.
Well, yeah, it's like the government are the reverse Nazis or something, and they've just decided that Christianity is bad. Yeah. And if that's the case, then fine.
But go lean into that.
Like, was the virus laser targeted at Christians? Did Christians start in a lab? I don't know. Whatever it is, like you just need to tell us why it's Christians. And surely,
because a dude called Christian ate a bat in China, and that kind of started it all.
There you go. And we've touched on this already, and we've already bashed Christians a fair bit as well. So I'm not going to go too heavy on this, but surely in this setup, surely the Christians are the government, aren't they? And the Christians are the ones doing the oppressing, not being oppressed. Like, that's who Christians are. I'm sorry, but history has taught us that, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So surely they're not the ones being persecuted here. That's not how this works at all. There is no fucking world in which that would be the case. Yeah. It just wouldn't. I don't understand. I really don't. But nevertheless, they do some hacking. They round up some more Christians. Bunch of shit goes on. Nothing really important. There's a lot of talking.
For Braveheart quote.
That's the next note. That's the next note. He has to give them a big, empowering speech. And this is the point where, as first-time filmmakers, if nothing else, you get to do a great big monologue and prove to everybody that you really know how to handle dialogue. You can really write. You can write an inspiring speech for your lead character. Or You could just rip a page out of Braveheart and read that, maybe.
Let's be fair. As far as as far as inspirational cult leaders go, he's not fucking David Koresh, is he? He's not inspiring people to burn themselves to death in a fucking building, is he?
It was Joseph Seed without any of the charisma. And to be perfectly honest, they should have tinted his glasses yellow, because at least that would have made him more interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he couldn't afford that because don't forget, they're poor oppressed people. They can't afford tinted lenses.
Oh.
Well, no. The big problem with the speech, though, besides the fact they've borrowed the latter half of it from Braveheart, and again, this might be the language thing, I don't know, but nobody has even bothered to idiot check the script, because I'm going to read you what he says from Braveheart, the famous line. He says, "They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom." Yet, literally 30 seconds earlier, he said that is exactly what the government had done. They had taken their freedom away from them. So, now, which is it?
And not only that, so you get that complete logic fuck, but also, right, they're trying to start an underground church and inspire people through the teachings of the church. Read the fucking Bible. Quote the fucking Bible to people. Yep. That's what it's for. If you're going to use it as a propaganda tool, fucking use it.
But they've probably realised that it's a load of horseshit and it's not going to work again, aren't they? So, fool me once.
Much like the rest of the fucking film.
Yeah, fool me once. I mean, it's fine, though, because I have actually worked out the problem here. This is the point, and I've double underlined this because I fixed this film at this point.
But did you turn it off?
No, I fixed it. Well, I didn't actually fix it. I just realised what it needed to do to turn all of this around. And it is very simple. And we have seen it, recently on this show as well. Like, it's quite an easy way to fix this film. More raptors is what this needs.
That fixes every film.
Right? Like, if all of a sudden one of them turned into a raptor, fine. No problem whatsoever. Just at this point, he goes, "They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom," and just turns into a raptor and starts eating people. Fine.
Either that, he fucking raises his arms up and they all fucking start streaming out from behind him and running off and go off to various people. Just people start indiscriminately killing people who aren't Christians. Because that's what this film wants to do anyway, let's be fair.
Even better. Yeah, just raptors versus the police then at some point in this dystopian state. Absolutely fine.
I'm in for that.
Yeah, and you can even get the raptors like chewing through all the paint cans, and then the police can shoot them and the raptors can blow up like in Jaws.
And when he's standing on top of the combine harvesters in all of those aerial shots, he can actually start using the combine harvesters to mow down the crowds of the non-Christians as the raptors charge alongside him.
Yep, see, it fixes it, doesn't it? More raptors.
Yeah, it's like the parting of the Red Sea.
But we don't get that, unfortunately. Instead, what they decide to do now, because they're fucking Christians, is they decide to try and fix everything. And the way they do that initially, they've had their little rant about how everything was a conspiracy now. So now they decide to turn the lens inwards and examine what Christianity can do. And that's going to be the second half of the film. And so that starts by having a kid, I'll say a kid, 20-ish, who's lost his parents in the clumsiest exposition I've ever heard. And without any shadow of a doubt, we get a scene which is the worst scripted, worst performed, worst shot, clumsiest exploration of grief I have ever seen committed to film. It is absolutely atrocious. It doesn't belong here. It serves no purpose whatsoever other than filler, and they want to try and say something. It's horrible.
But let's not forget the fact that when he goes to see them, it's not that his family's dead. It's that his family's been arrested, and he goes to them because he wants help because his family's been arrested and they're this underground resistance. Mm-hmm. But rather than be just like, "Oh, mate, we'll help you out. We'll break them out." It's a case of, write them off. They're dead. Have one of our DVDs, by the way.
Yeah, here's a DVD. Yeah. Go on and watch this.
No, sorry, funny, right?
They're dead, but be happy they're in heaven. Have a DVD.
Not only are they underground resistance and they're poor and they're oppressed, how the fuck are they producing all these DVDs? Where the fuck's the money coming from to buy the blanks to send them all out? Because they're posting them to fucking Asia and all sorts of places.
Well, also, where's Kevin Costner? If we're posting all of this stuff out, you need a postman, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. But more importantly, like, Holly, who's here to help, is a fucking computer whiz, and she's on the interwebs. Why don't they just start a web page? Like, why do we not just have lonelychristians.com or whatever?
They're sending DVDs, so it's offline, and the government can't track it except
through the
stuff
through the postal service, which will be run by the government.
Oh, yeah. But that's all right. That's fine. All of a sudden, these random DVD-shaped packages start going from Germany to Japan. That's okay.
Also, in a high surveillance state as well, you decide to choose optical media, which will be covered in fingerprints as soon as you pick it up.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They're not wearing gloves because there's no COVID protections going on back there.
And more importantly than all of this, like, we already have the language for this as a society as well, right? We already understand that in a dystopian society where everything has been destroyed and we're rebuilding and there's a resistance cell building up, what do? You broadcast over the fucking radio.
Yeah.
You don't send DVDs. You don't send them through the post, right? You use the fucking radio.
And you don't Google shit either.
Yeah.
Because that is a trope. Right? There's a reason tropes exist, all right? They exist because they work. And that is shorthand. The radio is shorthand for where, our society is broken, but we still have this long wave transmission system that was invented way back before video and all of that we can still use to communicate with each other. But they still have the fucking internet anyway. So why does that matter? Anyway, makes no sense, but that's what it is. So we get this scene with them. And this is particularly problematic, this scene, for a lot of reasons, but more than anything, because in the world we're in now, like, there's a little bit of fortuitous timing, for instance, with, like, you look at the entire Marvel output at the moment, and they're in a phase now where they have to deal with grief.
Yeah.
Okay. Their entire phase at the moment is dealing with the events of their last film and the fact that people have moved on. Some are dead, some are not. They've just moved on, but they have to rebuild. Okay. And our stories at the moment, our popular stories, just happen to be dealing with that and holding a mirror to the events of the last 2 or 3 years as well. So this is everywhere, right? Exploration of grief is absolutely everywhere in popular media at the moment. So if you're going to do it, you either need to say something new or you need to be at the top of your game, because otherwise you are going to look like a fucking moron. And again, that's exactly what they've done. They're talking about things that they clearly don't understand, and they are not doing it well. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. It is the worst sequence of the film for me, and that is really saying something. But this sequence is appalling.
I actually wrote a German word down at the end of this because his response to this guy dealing with grief, and that was "Fotze."
There you go. I mean, and it's at this point then where I've actually written, like, why has any of this been committed to film? Like, what is the point in any of this? Like, it's just a series of tedious, badly written conversations between people. Like, there's no reason for this to exist. It doesn't tell us anything. It's got nothing to say. It's awful. It has no value. It has no entertainment value. It has no cultural value. It has no artistic value. It has nothing to add to any sector of society, and it should be burned. I don't know why it exists, other than to waste 90 minutes of my time.
Yeah, and that in a nutshell is a better speech than anything that exists in this film.
You're not wrong. So then we get the police briefing scene, right?
Oh, I've got notes on that one.
Some people wearing masks, some people not wearing masks, right? It's clear that that's because they're reusing extras and stuff. So
they're not extras, they're fucking leads.
Yeah. But then you've got some in masks, some not in masks, but the chief of police who's projecting his voice and is our lead authoritarian figure, who, if masks are going to be a thing, he should be the one enforcing them, is unfucking masked.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But anyway, he's got all of his troops in line. He's discovered the rebel cell, and they're going to go out and bust the rebel cell up. It is at this point that I discover that I've got this film wrong all along, and it's actually just the shittiest Star Wars film that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to do here. This is like, he has an army, or their version of an army, in front of him, and he's giving the stormtroopers orders. He's just like, right, go and find Luke, who is actually a character here, and let's go and fuck him up, because these guys believe in a magic that we don't. So let's fuck them up.
Why can't we find the Christians? Looks like they have a specialist. Comments. Really? Why haven't we met them yet?
Yeah. Also, like, I get that they want to find the Christians. right? Because they're the bad guys, whatever shorthand story you want to use. But the Bible exists, right? And our history as it is in the world exists. So if they want to find Christians, why don't they just go and get a bunch of lions?
I was just saying the same thing.
We all know that lions like to eat Christians.
Yeah.
That's been taught to us.
Yeah.
Go and get some fucking lions. Easy. I'm assuming lions are still a thing unless Corona wiped out all the lions as well. I don't know. If
Didn't
not,
last time I checked.
yeah, come on. As a society, we would have conservation programs in place for shit like that. We absolutely would. Like, there's no way we'd let our whole ecosystem just go down. If humans are still around, so are lions and giraffes and tigers and elephants, and like there's gonna be maybe not as many as there used to be. And I'm not saying we built a fucking ark, right? But there would still be animals around. Maybe they'd even be just roaming free because nobody's looking after them in the zoo anymore. So
Yeah, like in The Last of Us.
yes, yeah, like all of a sudden turn a corner, there's a fucking giraffe. Yeah. Just go and get some lions and the Christians. Obviously, we can't afford lions is the problem. So yeah, there's that. And then of course the Christians do what Christians do best when they're being persecuted and there's danger of death, and some of them may actually very really die here because the police are going in and breaking up their parties and killing them all. They do what they do better than anything. They offer thoughts and prayers, which are clearly far more powerful than the army of police and their guns, because of course thoughts and prayers make you bulletproof, as America is teaching us on the daily. So there's that again, opportunity to say something here. You don't take it at all because you clearly don't understand what the fuck you're saying.
But again, they've also missed the point where the way you deal with bad guys with guns is you give the good guys guns. None of them have guns, so again, they're clearly not good guys.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely,
it's the only thing that can stop a bad guy is a good guy with a gun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't just add to the death toll.
Not at all.
Of course it. No, of course it. No, because Christians don't kill random people, do they? They only kill the evil police who are just trying to make society function again after it's fallen apart.
Bastards.
Yeah. How dare they? How dare they try and get society back on its feet and uphold the law? How dare they? Now, I've written here that this might be the worst film I've ever seen. By the end, I have decided it is the worst film I've ever seen, if we can even call it a film. But then, speaking about the police and how they all of a sudden found these terrorist cells, we have what is probably my favorite line, other than "I'm Holly and here to help," in the entire film, because now they find out that actually this is a real problem because there are random Christians meeting at random times in random places. So they're not having acts of worship or anything like that. It's just like Christians are suddenly showing up.
Like flash mobs.
Like a flash mob, but for prayer.
It kind of defeats the purpose of being an organized religion, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you're not an organized religion, if you don't have an organized place that you gather and worship. What you are in that instance is a cult.
Again, Joseph Seeds.
Yeah. So we have,
let's be honest,
random Christians meeting at random times in random places. So it's at this point as well, because I've really checked out now that I actually noticed the police badge is drawn on the guy's t-shirt. It's just been printed on.
Yeah, this is the point that I had to have my alcohol nap.
Yeah.
So I got really confused when I came back to the film.
Yeah, it's terrible. And then we get the scene entirely in German, which, whilst still clumsy in its writing, is easily the best performed scene in the entire film.
Yeah, because they don't know what they're fucking saying.
Even though Holly, who's here to help, still clearly isn't an actress, she manages this and she gets through it absolutely fine. And the other lady, I've forgotten her name already. Hannah. I knew it was a H. It was either Heather or Hannah. Hannah actually does really well. Like, her performance is actually pretty good here.
Hannah's probably the best actor in the film.
Oh, she unquestionably is.
Yeah, I think
it's just that she doesn't understand what she's saying for most of it.
And so the problem I've had all the way through is that because she doesn't understand, she's not leading the scenes, which she needs to be. And when she gets to lead this one, she's leading it because she's clearly the better. She's clearly the better actress. But also, they both understand what's going on because they both speak the language. All of a sudden, she's able to really show off a bit of chops here and go, actually, this is what I'm doing. This is why I want to do this, and not just memorizing syllables and trying to put them together in the right order.
Yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, she's still not good.
No.
But she's competent, and she commands the scene. It's fine. This is easily the best performed scene in the entire film.
Yeah.
But by a long shot. Shame it doesn't really do anything because we haven't got the context of Holly's character to understand why she needs saving, other than she wants to join the cult of Christianity.
And she's a hacker, and hackers are inherently bad.
Apparently so. Even though the government who she's hacking are bad, so then surely that makes her good because she's trying to bring down the bad government.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't. So
I don't know. There's blood coming out of my ears. I'm not really sure what's going on anymore.
Yeah, nor is anyone else.
I mean, I wasn't sure what was going on at all. Most of my notes are super confused at this point.
Well, now we have 4 people in a room, which is really difficult for them. In this scene because the boys join them, and they have no fucking idea how to shoot this scene. They just do not know. They try and do reverse shot, but none of it matches. They're clearly not all in the same place at the same time. Nobody's feeding anybody any lines or eye lines. Nobody's thought about the blocking. It's fucking horrible. It hurts to watch. To try and actually put this scene together in your head, like the physical space, is painful. It's really, really hard. Awful. Where do we go from there? Oh, yeah. So this is where I start really ranting about how they don't have any freedoms or anything, but they've got a modern apartment and stuff. I've already talked about that quite a lot, but I do go on to call them a bunch of ungrateful cunts, and then simply write fucking Christians, man.
There's also this is about the point where our lead is talking to the curly-haired girl.
Yes,
and I got really confused as to how they knew each other.
It's not explained.
Because as I said, I'd had an alcohol nap, and I'd come back to this hours later, and I was still a little bit pissed.
Yeah,
it's not explained. She just passes them some information randomly.
Well, this is the thing, because we see her earlier on, and she's when we talked about the scene where he said, "I'll give this to my daughter Lucinda," because just in case you don't know who Lucinda is, because we've never fucking met any of them before.
No.
So we get the bit where she's squirreling papers away. We don't know what for. We don't know where she's taking them. We have no idea who she is. And then all of a sudden she pops up with him. Hang on, where's the connection there? How's that coming about? Because she has the potential. If there is some actual proper underground terrorist shit going on, insurgent or whatever you want to call it, she has a key role because she's playing both sides. She's got a foot in both camps, and she's able to actually influence things. Why do we not lead on that? Why do we not draw on that? Why do we not explain who the fuck she is, where the fuck she's coming, and what she's doing?
Because that would suggest,
that they know.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, and there's been some thought gone into this, and they haven't just made it up as they go along. But yeah, she does just pass them information, show up out of nowhere, and then they fall in love over a montage.
Oh, and he also has the conversation with, "I didn't have any friends except my sister and Luke, but Luke left."
Yeah,
fuck Luke.
Yeah, Luke left, and then they decide, for some unknown reason, that this will be really difficult for them, but, and I quote, "It will be hard, but if we put Jesus in the center of our relationship, it will work."
Yeah, because that goes so well.
And again,
sandwich.
Having three
Helen, your mind went the same place as mine, because I was straight back into the porno. Like, I'd written here, awesome threesome action. And like, to be fair, I bet you Jesus fucking loves BDSM as well, because like, tie me to the cross, bitch. Get the whips out. Like,
well, he's
game for
He's
this.
going to give a really kinky fucking hand job, and he through the holes in his wrists. And there went the last Christian fucking listener.
So he's up for it. And if you want an orgy, like, instant orgy, isn't it? You just get some live animals in, he turns 1 into 1,000, like, straight away. So he's fucking fun at sex dungeons. So
and he turns water into wine as well, so everyone's going to be like loaded.
Exactly. So if they want to
save them a fortune,
they want to put Jesus at the center of their relationship, that sounds like a fucking good idea to me. Unfortunately, none of that happens.
No,
none of it.
Yeah, again, Jesus never shows up because, again, maybe he's not real. Who knows?
Maybe.
Well, no, because I'm sorry to spoil the ending, but given how the film ends, it's because Jesus is already here.
True.
Oh, is that what the ending was supposed to be?
Yeah, because I was starting to get to the stage where I was making notes, and I was just like, why do all Christians have this like massive hard-on for like martyrdom and like following in the path of Jesus? Oh wait, hang on, I know what's happening.
Okay, I missed that entirely. But
well, the alcohol was wearing off by this stage, so.
I think I was sort of knee deep in yesterday's Wordle by that point. I'd lost a bit to live.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to know at this point, though, besides Jesus's sexual preferences and stuff, is what at this point now, nearly an hour in, what the fuck has COVID got to do with any of this shit?
Nothing.
Like,
there is
not a damn thing.
It's not in it at all. Like, what a fucking lie.
Yeah, and then they have communion live via webcam.
Oh, when he was setting up the webcam though for the communion, he was making up the bed and stuff. I was like, is he actually shooting a porno?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I've written.
It looks like he's setting up a sex tape.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And also that
and this came on the back of him and the girl as well. I'm thinking, seriously,
Yeah.
move that along quick.
Yeah.
They have a bottle of communion wine, I think it's supposed to be. I know they're on a low budget. Maybe they don't drink, I don't know. But that doesn't half look like piss in that bottle. Like, that's either piss or whiskey, but it's certainly not wine.
No.
And then this is where it gets really weird, because it's like we completely forget about the story. Or actually, it's more like the story just transitions into something else here, and it just becomes some weird Christian retelling of Wayne's World. It's like this whole time, they just wanted to set up a TV studio in their basement and reach the world with Jesus's message.
If you build it, they will come.
That's what.
And they didn't, Mark. That's the point. They just did a shitty podcast.
Like, that's the thing. Like, if the whole film had been gearing to that, again, if it had been, forget the police state and stuff, right? Let's just have this small core group of people who survived a global pandemic that's decimated society, and they're all Christians, and they've managed to find each other. They just need to know there's other people out there. They need to connect. And so the whole film can be just about them scavenging their thing, finding Holly, who's here to help, who has the tech savvy to get them set up. But actually, she needs some stuff from the secret government bunker or whatever, so they have to go and get it. And the whole film can just culminate in them giving this communion message that we don't even know if anyone else is going to see. But they've done it, and they've broadcast, rather than have us, it makes sense now you've pointed out, Helen, but rather than have them gathering all of the flock together and us seeing that, it doesn't feel like they've achieved anything because they do it so quickly. Whereas if the actual mission is, look, let's just get the message out there. Let's see if we can do this. Then it feels like a personal achievement for them. Because actually, again, aside from the fact they trip over the words now and again, they compose this shot pretty well. Once they're all sat in place and they've got the communion wine and stuff, it's pretty well lit, it's pretty well composed, and it looks like, yes, a cheap porno or a webcast, right? But that's what it's supposed to be. And for about 5 minutes, it feels really genuine. Like, that performance feels genuine. He feels like he believes what he's saying, because he probably does, because he's preaching to people. And if that had been the culmination of the film, again, I still don't think it's good, but I might have walked away from this going, yeah, okay, that was a story. He achieved something. Like, we got somewhere. But it unfortunately carries on for ages after that. But yeah, we just get
flashback.
Yeah, so we get this fucking communion, and we are literally watching a church sermon for 5 minutes, and I've written in massive block capitals here, why the fuck is this on my screen? What is this for? Like, why? Why have you done this? Because if people want this, if people want sermons on their screen, there are entire television networks they can go to. They don't need to rent this shit and see it done badly. There's no reason for this at all. It doesn't add anything to the story even. It's fucking awful. And it's even worse when you consider, as I say, this is billed as a fucking action film. And
I didn't even realize that.
They're giving us a church sermon, for fuck's sake. Awful. Literally nothing is happening at this point. Now, the film is completely stalled. There is zero threat. Not that there ever really was any anyway, but the police interjected at least a bit earlier. There is now zero fucking threat. There's zero forward momentum. There's no character development. It's just a bunch of preaching. I hate it.
And then we get the really I don't even know what the fucking scene was, what the point of it was, but where curly-haired girl gets caught by Lucinda, the daughter, who's been set up to be this like sort of like very efficient, very down the line government official, autocratic.
Just does a switcheroo.
And they have this speech where she basically takes her out and she's like, yeah, so I know you're stealing the information and you're feeding it to the Christians, and I want to say well done, because like my daddy never loved me. And they're having this whole very stilted conversation outside, and she's not a secret, the evil quote unquote evil woman, she's not a secret Christian, she's not trying to become a Christian, the curly-haired girl isn't trying to convert her to Christianity, they're just basically having a conversation about, yeah, so my dad sucks, oh yeah, I kind of noticed that. Yeah. All right, bye then. And it's like, what the fucking point was, like, what was the point?
No motivation, no character development. She needed to change the story. Like I said, when they introduced her earlier, she may as well have had a big flashing neon sign above her head that said plot device.
Yeah.
Because that's all she is.
But she wasn't a plot device, because she didn't convert to their cause. No. Because this is the point. They should have had a convert in that scene, because at least then they would show that the Christian message was spreading and what have you. It would have been really easy to have put that in that scene. But they don't.
No, she's just there to let the other girl off.
Yeah, but for no reason. She's got no reason to do that other than you stood up to my dad and I quite admire that.
But she didn't stand up because she went behind his back.
It's wrong and it's bad. But like
before you get to that, though, she does actually pass on some vital information. There is something that she does. She does pass on some vital information, because there's a scene before that, and we've actually missed the scene earlier on as well, where Luke, weirdly out of character, shows up to tell them that it's almost like he's been brainwashed or something, but I think it's just that the guy can't act. But then it's at this point we learn that actually Luke's a fucking narc.
But it's the whole Bible thing again, isn't it? It's Judas telling me he's going to betray him.
And
they may as well call him Judas.
Oh, don't pay him off.
Just call him fucking Judas. Like, do it.
Yeah.
Right? And then we get some guns. They tease us a little bit with some guns, and then for about 30 seconds it turns into cops. Like, they just need to play bad boys. Because it literally turns into an episode of Cops. Just really bad. Oh, and also, why are the police in camo gear? Is it just because they couldn't afford any more police uniforms and they had an Army-Navy shop around?
I don't know, but surely they're not out in any sort of war zone. So surely just put them in a pair of black fucking trousers and a black jumper.
Yeah, exactly. Why are they in camo gear?
Yeah, like, no reason whatsoever.
So you know that this is the beginning of the chase sequence and everything, where we go back to the car thing. Right, so what I did at this stage was, because I'd already previously seen the chase sequence with the music choice that obviously was there to make it seem much more sort of high paced and everything, is I muted the film and I put on Man on the Run. And it was so much better.
Do you know what would have been even better again is Yakety Sax. I think I might actually have to go and do that now. The one bit that really annoyed me with this, right, with this being the back into the chase sequence now, before I realized that it was just going to stop, and that really fucking annoyed me, is the cops bust in, and our gang of Christians, after doing their worldwide communion, flee. I get that. They're all scared. They're all running scared. But the cops, as far as we know, only chase the leader. We never get to find out what happened to the rest of the characters. Where the fuck are they? Especially, mind you, the motherfucking Marine who is capable of taking these guys out. He just fucks off. Like, we don't see him attack any cops or anything. It's just they decide they're going to follow the leader, and we get back into the chase scene, which was bad the first time around. I do not want to see it again. Thanks very much. It was terrible, first of all.
There is a bit as well where just when they're about to run and he's talking to an older woman, and she's like, you need to leave. We need you here, so you need to fuck off. Like, hang on, you need him here or do you need him to go? Which one is it?
Yeah.
So, hang on, what are you talking about? Yeah. And then in the end, he just ignores her and fucks off anyway.
Yeah. So he fucks off. We have a literal repeat of the chase sequence.
Although with a really energetic run up a bank into a railway line.
Now,
so you can just go under a bridge and up the what?
Yeah.
Why? What's the point? Have him jump in a car and fuck off.
But why repeat the whole thing?
I don't know.
We've
This is
already
what I was saying
seen it.
earlier.
It makes no sense.
Even if
at
you would
all.
say, right, you get back to this point and then you repeat a couple of the shots, but then you put something different in, you expand it out, you make it a bit longer, you put something more in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even you can even contract it and make it shorter. We've already seen what happens.
Yeah.
Or
Just give
add
it something
an element
different.
to it, like the Bourne films do, like when they repeat that sequence in the third film, and all of a sudden you're seeing it with different contexts, so the scene plays differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't do any of that. They just replay the whole fucking thing.
I know, we've got 40 seconds of footage we already shot. Let's chuck that in.
Yeah.
And then
don't forget to put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, and then it loops back around to give us basically a circular narrative. We've learned nothing.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about any of these characters. Nobody's grown or evolved.
No.
Like, we've literally just come full circle. So we could literally start the film again and it would just play on repeat. And there is absolutely no point.
No. Or my favorite option is start it at the second time of the car chase. Just watch to the end. You save yourself like 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, better still, don't watch it at all and go and hammer yourself to a fucking cross because it's more fun. And if you want a Christian message, do that. Yeah. Or how much is a Bible? Does Bible cost about £3.50 probably? And
no, you can get
free.
it for free in a hotel.
Right.
Here's what you do. Go and get yourself a Bible and a waste bin and a box of matches. That'll cost you less than £3.50 and you'll have way more fun.
Just do it outdoors. House fires are not cool.
Yeah.
Don't do it outdoors at the moment because we're in a drought. You can't put the fires out.
Yes, you're not yet. You can't start fires at the moment. That's right.
No.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, and then, you can think of it as immersive theatre. Yeah, it's immersive theatre. You've got an impressive government all around you. You're burning a Bible so you can really understand what these characters wanted to get across to you. You can put yourself in the filmmaker's shoes. It's kind of a performance art piece. Do that, cost you about 50 pence, and it's more fun than this.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, go outside, give someone 50 pence and ask them to kick you in the nuts. It's still more fun than this. And they get 50p.
Yeah.
Everyone's winner. They can go and buy like an ice cream or something. Everyone's a winner. Yeah. I don't know what fucking world I'm living in where you can get an ice cream for 50p. I just went back in time 20 years. Again, this fucking film makes my brain dribble out of my ears. It's horrible. I fucking hate this thing, and I hate that I had to watch it. This is the only time for this podcast I've regretted watching a film.
The thing as well is with this film, he actually wanted to make a message. The very last scene where he's forced to his knees in the woods, which are too overlit, by the way. Like, I don't know why this is the only time they have decided to throw actual lights on something, but they have.
That's the only day they could afford a generator.
Yeah. And so Lucinda, our evil woman that's had this conversation where it's like, is she a Christian? Is she trying to become Christian? Comes up to him and she's got the gun and he's on his knees. And then it cuts to black and you hear the gunshots. And the problem is, if they wanted to make a point with the film, she would have let him go because she would have been converted to Christianity and she would have let him go. But he wants to be fucking Jesus, so he has to die, which completely renders the entire film pointless.
But even if you wanted to do that, right, at that point, you just need some dialogue from him to cement that. You just need, it's fine, I forgive you.
Yeah,
I absolve you
I
of your
understand, I
sins.
forgive you, yeah. Something
like
that.
Anything, or a fucking Bible passage even, you need that. What would have been better if at that point, if we want him to be Jesus, is if all of a sudden we went into bullet time and he just fell backwards and splayed his arms around and the bullets sailed over his head.
And no, the bullets hit him there and the bullets hit him there.
Yeah, exactly. Or, bust out a fucking lightsaber, anything like that. Just, fucking get a rod out and cast some spells. Anything that any other Jesus figure does, just do something, please, because it's horrible. Like, look, I fucking hate an ambiguous ending. I absolutely despise them. All right, they have their time and place, and when they're executed well, I will go along with them. But 9 times out of 10, they aren't. And this is a very, very bad example of that. This is just like, how do we end this? I don't know. Fucking kill him. Just cut to black and kill him. It'll be fine. Story's over. Fuck off. You just wasted my time. The film was bad enough anyway, but now it's 90 minutes without any point or resolution. Fuck off and give me my £3.50 so I can buy a bunch of ice creams. or get kicked in the nuts a bunch of times. I don't really care. All of them are more fun than this.
To be fair, after 90 minutes, I felt like I've been kicked in the nuts a bunch of times.
Nothing has ever made. I will say at least this made me feel something, and I think that was anger. Yeah, I don't. It did elicit a response, and it was a visceral anger that it elicited. Like, honestly, there were points where I just wanted to smash the TV so I didn't have to watch it anymore. And I've never, ever felt like that about a film. I've never felt like that about a film. Not even Battlefield Earth made me feel that annoyed. And that's probably the worst thing we'd watched on this show up until this point.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But now this is like, I don't know how we get worse than this. I don't know where we go from here.
I don't even think this is a low bar. I think this is kind of it. I don't think you can get any lower than this.
It's the floor. There's no bar. This is the floor. It's fucking dreadful. Incidentally, in my research, this does have an aggregated score on IMDb of 1.1. So
how the fuck did it get that? Who did it pay that for?
I mean, that's pretty fucking shocking, right? So it's not just us, which is reassuring.
Yeah.
What a fucking car crash of a fucking. Well, I'm not calling it a film. It's just a thing that happened to me.
Yeah. One thing we did skip over actually, and I did remember. I remember thinking at the time when he just mentioned is that again this whole thing where they try to paint the the oppressive government as Nazis. They actually gave them a department of propaganda. Or Minister of Propaganda.
Yes, I did notice that actually. The Minister of Propaganda. Yeah.
It's like you're not even attempting any sort of balance here. You're not even attempting to say, right, okay, there might be something to this. Actually, no. Yeah, we might. No, it's things are changing. It's no, we're just gonna fucking call them all fascists. It's fine because clearly anybody who hates Christians is a fascist.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah.
Clearly.
So we're all fascists apparently.
Whatever. I just really fucking hate organized religion. I'm an equal opportunities fascist when it comes to religion. I don't just hate Christians. I hate them fucking all. So Christians are the worst, but don't really agree with any of them, to be honest. Apart from Jedi. Maybe I'd be a Jedi if I had to declare a religion. I don't know.
I don't know. Rastafarian might work.
Yeah, Rastafarian might work as well, I suppose. But in general, just like I'll just be a Chris. Thanks. Quite fine looking after myself.
Yeah.
You know, don't need to believe in some magic power. But that's just me.
And I think, and I think that's kind of where it all kind of gets skewed anyway. So I don't probably need to ask this anyway, but is it better than Mario?
This is the worst anything I've ever seen in my life. And even if I drank the Kool-Aid, which as we've just said, I don't, it would still be fucking awful. Like even if I was a hardcore right-wing fundamentalist Christian and this was right up my street, it would still be badly made, tedious, offensive, entirely devoid of any point or meaning or charm. Just get fucked. All of them. Just get fucked. It's horrible.
Even if you want to dig the knife in and be really sort of like anti-vaxxer, there's no such thing as COVID. This is all just a way for the government to take our freedoms. They don't even lean into that. So
I would prefer that. I would take that. I would disagree with it, but at least they would have a flag in the sand and they would be saying something. I would prefer that. Yeah. You're right. It doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely 100%. Not just worse than Mario. It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. I would rather watch Bat Pussy twice.
Yeah, agreed.
Fucking hell. I don't think we've buried the lead on this one too much. I agree with you, Chris. This is possibly the worst thing I've ever seen. I have no words.
Yeah. Well, we've had an hour and 50 odd minutes worth of words, so I think we.
I have no more words.
Covered it. Yeah.
I actually saying that we've had an hour and 50 odd minutes of words. Not that many of them were cunt, which I'm surprised at.
I said cunt. I distinctly remember saying cunt.
Mine was in German.
Down in my notes. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of on a par with the normal number of uses. It wasn't really any more excessive than it usually is, which I think felt it should be.
I told you I was going to be very fair to the Christians.
Also,
well, someone had to be because they're all being oppressed.
But I did actually have a note 12 minutes in where there's that really awkward scene where he's talking and you've got that awkward cutaway to his hands in the lap and he gestures his hands open and it's the edit is appalling and it makes no sense and it's really jarring, is I did actually have to rewind the film at that stage because I thought when he moved his hands he was going into the British Sign Language for cunt. And I needed to double check it. And it wasn't. But because it's just a brief flash, it's that initially
so the British Sign Language just go, I know Sharon Stone did that. Let's make that fucking sign.
That's cunt in British Sign Language, and I thought that's what he did.
Apologies for anyone Helen's just offended with that.
But just I thought that was it, and so I had to rewind it, and I was just like, oh no, it wasn't. But
again, no, it's not that fucking clever.
Too late to apologise now. Now we've just equal opportunities offenders. We've offended people that can hear us and people that can't. So
that's very true.
Yeah.
You know, we might be offensive, but at least we offend everybody. So
I'll tell you what, it would be interesting to see how the automated captions on YouTube pick this fucker up.
Well, I mean, yeah, let's give it a go and find out.
Oh fucking hell. Yeah, I think we're all kind of done. Yeah. So that's kind of our take. If anybody has suffered through this the way we have, and suffered the way those poor Christians have for not having fucking high-speed broadband or whatever the fuck their problem was, yeah, please let us know what your thoughts on the film were, because fuck me, it can't get any worse than what we thought of it already. Get in touch through the usual channels, on Twitter at ddpodcastnet. You go to our website, ddpodcast.net. You can also get our previous episodes and other shows as well. Wherever you get your podcast from, subscribe, leave a message back to us as best we can. While you're at our website, hit the big red button and buy our shit because, we need money. But until next time.
See you later.
Ta-ra.